In this video, I'm going to run through all the custom work that I did to the stock exhaust on my Suzuki GS500 and all the other mods, like custom intake. So this is my Suzuki GS500F. Now F means that it had fairings on it originally, which, well, they look quite nice, but when you drop them they tend to break badly. So all that's left of the fairings is, well, the tail section, which also got fairly well destroyed in the crash, but it's looks a lot better with it held on in pieces than no fairing at all on the back. Now, what this video is about is the exhaust. Now, so 90% of the exhaust is original still. The things I have done is I've removed the collector from underneath because it's a very poorly designed piece, and I've removed the balance tube because it's got a 2-in-1 system anyway, so you don't really need to balance them when they come out of the head. Well, that's what my research said anyway. So the exhaust, now that I've taken this out and it actually flows better, and I've got a K&N intake on it, which I'll leave the part number in the description, so if you want to order one for your GS500. Now, because it's got a high flow intake and an exhaust that flows better, it did have to be rejetted. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know what the jets are that the bike shop put in them for me, because I couldn't get it worked out, so I took it to an expert and said, hey, can you just rejet this and make it work? And they did, and it worked great. But I don't know what the jets are, so I can't really help you out with that. First up, we're looking at the exhaust and what I actually did to it. So, come down here. So, normally in here there's a piece of tube that goes between the two. Now, it's a balance pipe, but this is a 2-in-1 exhaust, so it doesn't really need to be balanced. They actually put these in to reduce a bit of the noise. So, to do this mod, all I did was take the exhaust off the bike, and up the top here I tack welded a piece of scrap metal across the top to hold these pipes at exactly the right width, and then cut out the piece of tube that was in there. Now, there was only a hole in each side that was about 6 or 8 millimeters, so all I did was get this piece of 25x5 flat bar, cut it to exactly the right width, tack it in top bottom on both sides, and then weld it all the way around, and that just blocked up the hole and put the brace in to hold it. Then I took the piece of scrap metal off the top, cleaned up all the pipes, and that was it. Now, I don't know how much noise difference this made to the exhaust, because I also took out the collector at the same time. Now, the collector is going to be a tricky one to see, but let's try. It's replacing this piece, which, well, is not a very well designed part. It basically went from one size, it got shrunk down, and into another piece of pipe, and then it went up a size into this collector, and the collector went around, and then the collector went down a size, which then went through an expander, and then went into the next size up, which is everything up here. So you got a nice looking piece of pipe come out the side of the bike, but everything underneath from under the frame is just, well, horrible looking. Now I'll try and get a good picture of the inside of this collector, but yeah, it's not very good. So we've replaced the whole lot from here through to here. This is just two bits of pipe that were the same diameter as the main headers, and then this section from here through is actually a 2¼ inch, I think it was, mandrel bend. It's only a 45 degree, and basically I've put these two pieces in so that they're lined up with the pipes coming in, and then they both point in together here, and they're both touching and welded. And then this 45 had the end of it flattened down, and that to the thickness of these pipes, and then it all got matched in rather nicely. Now to do this and have it all just bolt straight back on the bike, what I did was put a brace bar across here, and then a piece of box section that came from there all the way through up to the back here somewhere, probably here where it's rusted. And so that then joined the front two pipes and the rear pipe all in together. So then once I had that braced up, I was able to just cut out the entire collector and throw it on the floor. Now this was done before I had my TIG, so it's got some nasty little MIG welds that have just been ground back as far as I dare. I didn't really feel like the need to grind them back flush because, well, I wasn't entirely certain about the amount of penetration that it had, and it will work fine. That joint is actually just underneath the frame, so you generally don't see it from the top. But after the whole thing was done, I sanded it up and then painted it with some high temp exhaust paint, which, well, seems to have come off in quite a few places, so probably not the best paint. Anyway, let's see what it sounds like. Alright, the camera and microphone are 1.5 meters away from the exhaust tip at about 45 degrees, so I thought that's probably the best spot to measure it at, so let's see what it sounds like. That's idling at 1500 RPM. So the camera is 1.5 meters away from the exhaust tip at about 45 degrees. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Now, originally there's a great big plastic box that takes up this whole space, and that muffles the intake. The intake actually sounds better, I think. I'll bring the camera over this side of the exhaust tip so you can hear it, see what you think. Alright, so going for the rider's perspective now. It's roughly where your head would be. there you go. That's the custom exhaust and intake for my Suzuki GS500. I'll now show you a couple of the other little custom bits that you may have spotted, like little catch can. It's got this pipe here, goes all the way to the top of the engine. Now inside it's actually got steel wool in there, a K&N filter that just fits straight on, and about an inch up from the bottom there's actually a little plate in there, and there's a thread tapped into the bottom with a bolt. Now the reason why the welds on this look so horrible is because I made the entire thing in about 5 minutes on a lunch break. Now down here, it's a bit dirty because this is an 8mm thick aluminium fork brace that I designed in CAD and had CNC machined, because originally there's a piece of 3mm steel goes between the two forks that allows the forks to move independently, which is not very good for handling. Stiffening it up with this 8mm plate really helps and makes it feel a lot more stable when going through corners, and it's got a Suzuki logo, so I think that looks pretty good. Because it was a fairing bike, when I crashed it I lost, well, all the paneling that held the indicators on and the headlight, and when the headlight was actually in its metal frame, it actually sticks out a bit further, about here somewhere. So I made up a design for these to take the stock fairing headlight and actually bolt it into the frame. It does wobble a little bit because, well, I've taken a lot of metal out of there, just making it look cool. And again, more Suzuki logos, but these are the factory indicators. They bolt in. Each side is actually different. I mean, this section's the same on both sides, but this panel's different because on the other side, as you can see here, the speedo cable's got a cutout so that it actually goes through. But yeah, that's my custom headlight brackets. So I've still got the pointy headlight, but without the fairings. I think it looks alright. These filters fit really nice and just buy it straight off the shelf from K&N. I recommend you get the filter cleaner kit to go with it, and oil. Fuel tank's off so you can actually see everything in here and actually hear it. This is a custom fuel tank that I built. I'll put a link up here so you can have a look at that. Now this was actually so that you can just put it into any vehicle, plumb up the fuel pump to the carby, and not have to worry about rusty fuel tanks and rusty fuel lines when you're stuffing around with an old vehicle you found in a paddock. Now, as I said, there'll be a link in the description underneath for this K&N filter, which is just a bolt-on fit for this model. The breather hose that comes out the top of the engine normally goes into the airbox. You can put a hole through the top here and just get a fitting to actually put the breather straight into the top there, which is probably what should be done legally, but I've just made a catch can instead. So yeah, I can recommend this, but if you're putting in a high flow intake, and you will need to change the jets in the carby, because after I put this in and modified my exhaust slightly, then it didn't really run very well. It was too much air, not enough fuel, so had to richen it up a little. Bit more power, but you notice every horsepower when you start off with like 40. So it was a fun bike to ride. I don't ride it anymore because, well, yeah, I don't ride motorbikes anymore. And well, anyway, that's it for this video. I highly recommend you check out the video about this fuel system because it's very helpful. And as always, customize everything.